Hello and welcome to part 2 of my Macromedia Flash tutorial. Last tutorial we just learned how to do a basic animation of a ball moving from one screen to the other. What we're going to do here is I'm going to introduce some layers and introducing how things can move independently. Alright, so what we did last class is I just drew a ball and moved it across. What I'm going to do now is we're just going to introduce you to some of the drawing features here. Okay, this guy right here, this is called the brush tool, obviously. If I click on that, we can use this in order to draw just desires onto the on the screen. I'm going to Control Z that to get rid of that, to undo. I'm just going to. We've got a selection of colors that we can pick, and we can also use the brush tool, the different features of the brush tool. We can make a smaller brush here, and I'm just going to draw it. And so what I've just drawn a couple of lines here. To be honest, I'm making a pizza crust, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use the paint bucket tool. I've drawn an outline of the pizza crust, and I've completely joined them in. So if I've got an area that I've kind of drawn and I've kind of closed the circle of an area, I can take that and I can fill that in with a color using the paint bucket. So I'm just going to take the paint bucket, you can see how it looks like it's on an angle, and I'm going to pour the paint into that area. I can also change it to like a different color and pour the paint into that area there, but I think I'm just going to stick with I don't want a green pizza crust just yet. And then I'm going to use the brush tool again, and we're going to add some sauce again, so I'm just going to take that, and I've closed in this area, and if I hold and I click on the paint bucket tool again and fill it in there, and I've just filled in that area. Alright, and then now we're just going to pick a slightly different color there and make our thing slightly smaller. And like, who can't have a pizza without some mozzarella? I mean, that's looking a little more like cheddar, but we'll go with this for now. So we've added this in. Now, last class we learned that if we want something to animate, we need to create it as a piece of clip art, or as Flash calls it, a symbol in the library, right? So there's nothing in our library right now. So obviously this pizza will not animate it, okay? Like, we've just drawn it in our main stage here. We can take and select part of it and distort it, but I'm going to Control Z to undo that, or I can just go undo. But this thing will not animate. I cannot move from one side to the other. So what I want to do is, it's okay, I don't want this to animate, so I'm going to actually draw another element which is going to animate, and that's going to be the pepperoni. So I'm going to make new symbol, or I can do it here too. New symbol, and we're going to call it pepperoni, and I'm going to click OK. And now, like before, I'm inside the pepperoni. I'm inside the library, and I'm editing the pepperoni inside here, okay? So I'm going to throw that over there, and I'm going to make a delicious pepperoni here. So we'll use our oval tool, and we're just going to draw an oval, and we're going to do some fancy sizzle marks properly, and then we're going to, now I need to go back to my pizza crust, because I draw my pepperoni, so I'm going to go back up to here, and I'm going to click back on my original scene, right, because I'm inside the pepperoni. I need to back up and get out of here and go back to my scene. There we go, it's right there. So now we're left with the original pizza crust, and we've got our clip art, or our symbol, which is the pepperoni. Now, what's going to happen is there's another rule of Flash that you need to remember. We've got this, which is in one layer. This is in layer. If you have ever worked in Photoshop, which you may have in my classes, then you will have worked with layers. This layer, we're going to call this layer crust. And the beauty of layers is that you can have things on top of each other and have them move independently of each other. But in order to do this is another rule in Flash. If you want something to animate, yes, it has to be a symbol in the library, but it also has to be in its own layer. Now we can create more layers by just clicking on this little button right here, Insert Layer. And what this does is it creates a new layer, and I can double click on the name here, and I'm going to name it. There we go. And you can see here how it's created a blank keyframe. There is nothing here. We know this because the keyframe is white and the circle is hollow. If I were to take my pepperoni that I've created and drag it on over, it's way too big for that's an awful big pepperoni. But you can see how it's become a solid now. That's telling me that there is something in this layer. I can even select on it when it gets highlighted. The beauty thing about layers is that we can take those things, and if I see how the pepperoni is on top of the crust, well, so is it here, right? Well, I could take that pepperoni underneath the crust, and that moves it underneath the crust. But we don't want that. We want a pizza, so we're just going to move it back. Now, our pizza, here first, I'm just going to make that small, like that. And we're going to, our pizza is just one static image right now. It's just like a picture in Photoshop, right? We haven't animated it. So what we need to do, like before, we need to give it, we have to make our movie, like say, like 1 or 2 seconds long. And we do that up here in the timeline. Like we said, Flash operates at 12 frames a second. So from here to here is 1 second long. And like from at 24 frames would be 2 seconds long. And 36 would be 3 seconds long, and so forth. What I'm going to do here is just 5 frames later, so like not even half a second later, I'm going to create a new keyframe. I'm going to right click and go Insert Keyframe, and so I've created the pepperoni later on in time. Now you see here that we've moved to like half a second later, and there's the pepperoni here, but you notice that the pizza crust has disappeared, and it's disappeared here too. So we need to have we need to create some frames here, and so that the pizza crust would be visible at this point in time. So let's just right click, and I'm just going to some plain old frames, so I don't need any keyframes here. And so you can see that now the pizza crust occurs at this point in time. This is good for when you are making bigger movies, and if you want something to come in later on or disappear in your movie, you just don't have it in your timeline at that particular time. So I'm going to click on this keyframe and on my arrow tool, and I'm going to have I'm going to go up